Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today you join me in the south of Spain in this Toyota CHR hybrid, and I just want to talk to you about why I think hybrid should be the future of the motor car rather than battery electric vehicles. As we keep being reminded in lots of parts of the world, including Europe, in the very near future you won't be able to buy a brand new car with a conventional combustion engine. Instead, if you want to buy a brand new car, all you'll be able to buy is a battery powered electric vehicle. And in the words of Liz Truss,
that is a disgrace.
I know I'm a petrol head, so you probably expect me to have this opinion, but I just think for most people, the EV is almost useless. As a city car or a second car, then they're great, but for everything else, they fall short of what we've got already. EVs are fine for a select few who have a nice, safe place to charge them and who don't do many miles on a regular basis, and who have another larger car with a conventional engine for longer trips, and who can afford to pay the ridiculous premium to buy them in the first place. But for most people, they just don't make sense. Lots of people live in terraced houses, or live on a main road with no driveway, or live in an apartment. What are they supposed to do? How are you supposed to charge it if you don't have a wall charger at home? Can you imagine the pavements when everyone's running an extension lead out of the living room window to plug in the Nissan Leaf overnight? It's ridiculous. The government insists that that's not a problem. They say, we'll just use a public charger. Okay, perfect. If you have one. Where I live in the UK, it's quite a large village of about 25,000 people, and it's only about 25 minutes from the centre of Manchester, so don't think it's some bucolic outpost in the middle of nowhere, because it isn't. And also, without wishing to brag, it's quite an affluent area. So guess how many electric charging points there are in my village? Have a guess. 25,000 people, what would you say, maybe 1%? Maybe 250? Nope, fewer than that. Okay, maybe 25? 25 charging points to do 25,000 people? Could work, couldn't it? Nope, there aren't even 25. Do you want to know how many charging points there are in my village of 25,000 people? None. Zero. Nor are there any in the neighbouring villages either. It's madness. The nearest one is in Stockport, which is 3.5 miles away from me, which is a bit too far to walk home with your shopping while your car's charging for 8 hours. Then you've got the issue of the electric source itself. If everybody switches to an EV overnight, I'm not sure there's enough to go around. Then you've got the issue of how clean that electricity is. We all know that air pollution causes thousands of deaths a year. I'm not being ignorant to that, and of course we should try and reduce that number. But did you know there's a percentage of air pollution caused by the dust from your brake pads? Did you know that? I didn't. I learned it from the Jeremy Vine show. In fact, brake dust contributes 20% of fine particulate matter pollution, compared to just 7% contributed by exhaust fumes. It's mind-blowing that, isn't it? And guess what? EVs have brake pads too. Also, even though there are no emissions coming from the exhaust of an EV, where do you think that electricity comes from? Unless you have a wind turbine in your garden or solar panels on your roof, it comes from burning fossil fuels. Or from a nuclear power plant, which isn't exactly clean either. The byproducts of that stay with us for thousands of years. I bought an electric car a few years ago as a toy, really. I shipped over a Fiat 500e from California and then shipped it down to my little place in Spain to use as a holiday car. In theory, or on paper at least, it was a great idea. It had a range of about 90 miles, so I thought that would be perfect to use while I'm there for a weekend. Well, it wasn't. I had range anxiety always. I'd get up, go for a coffee, then go to the supermarket, and then I'd think, I'll go and check out that new place in Malaga. So I'll drive there. Then I'd be driving back with 35 miles range thinking, right, I've got to go home now and charge this. I can't go to the shopping mall or to a restaurant. I've got to go and charge my car. I daren't put the air conditioning on because that'll instantly zap 8 miles. It was stressful. Do you know how many times I coasted back from Meehouse Pueblo with the windows down because I daren't put the air conditioning on? It's ridiculous. It just felt like a massive step backwards. You know, if we're going to regress, why not go the whole hog and buy a horse and cart? In addition to that, I had to buy a wall charger, which cost me a few €100. Then I had to get an electrician to come and fit it. That cost me another few €100. Then I had to buy a charging lead for it because my American lead didn't work. That was about €300. Then my power kept tripping, so I had to go to the electricity board and pay for more power. This meant that a Spanish man had to come out in a diesel Cinquecento van and fiddle with the circuit board. This cost me about €1,200, and then I had to increase my monthly tariff. But I thought, you know what, fine, I'll just go along with it. I really like the car and I should probably embrace the future. But eventually I just ran out of patience with it. I just thought, this is madness. Where will it all end? It just feels like a massive step backwards. This is all before we talk about the astronomical cost of buying an electric car in the first place. Take for example the Fiat 500. In days gone by, a top spec 1.2 litre petrol lounge spec with aircon and a pan roof would have cost you about £12,000. Compare that to a top spec La Prima electric Fiat and they're £35,000. 35 grand. It's nearly triple the cost. How ridiculous. And then in the winter the battery range is rubbish because they don't like the cold weather. Then you've got the fact that the batteries wear over time, so a 10-year-old one just won't have the same range as a brand new one. Look at your phone or your electric toothbrush. They just don't last as long as when you first got them. I saw a video on YouTube with a guy that had a 11 or 12-year-old Nissan Leaf, and the range was down to 25 miles. So you plug it in for 8 or 10 hours overnight, and then the next morning you've got 25 miles. What a waste of the Earth's finite resources, honestly. Of course, you can just replace the battery pack, but in most cases that's more than the car's worth. Add into the mix the cost that electricity is now far more expensive than it was a year or two ago. And also the tax breaks you used to get, like free road tax and stuff like that in the UK, that's coming to an end very soon. And what about rental cars? Because they'll be forced into buying EVs too. Imagine that, can't you? You land in a foreign country, then all of a sudden you're thrown the keys to an electric car, and you'll have to figure it out for yourself. You'll be on Google Translate having to figure out the French for, "Excuse me miss, which lead does this take?" That will just zap the fun out of any road trips, won't it? The other thing which really annoys me is that they all take different leads. You know what it's like when you're in a taxi on your way home and your iPhone's about to die, so you ask the taxi driver if you can borrow his charger, and he's got a Samsung. Imagine that when your car's down to 4 miles and you pull up at a public charging point and it's got the wrong lead. You just pull your hair out. The other thing is, if you eventually find a public charging point, it'll either be busy or it won't work. Or it'll require some sort of membership where you've got to have usernames and passwords that you won't remember. Just makes me really cross. Usernames and passwords and stuff is just the bane of my life anyway. Which I suppose brings me neatly onto today's video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark, who are a VPN service provider. They basically help to keep you safe while you're online, whether you're doing online banking or online shopping or just general surfing the web. It encrypts all your details both to and from your device, and it hides your IP address so cyber thieves can't view it. But what I mainly use Surfshark for, especially when I'm here in Spain, is to change my location settings. So, you know when you're on Netflix or one of those streaming sites and it won't let you watch the content from your home country or from another territory or region because it's not available in your current territory or region? But with Surfshark you can just change your location settings so that it thinks you're in a different territory. Then all of a sudden all that content becomes unblocked. In addition to that, it blocks malware, phishing, ads and other kinds of nastiness, which in turn can speed up your bandwidth and make your device run much more smoothly. You can download it very easily from the App Store and you can use it on an unlimited number of devices. It's not expensive either, we're talking about £1.50 a month. If you click the link below in the video description and use my promo code HighPeakAutos, then you'll get an additional 3 months totally free and 83% off. So if you want to watch your favourite films or TV shows from another country, or you want to protect yourself while you're doing online banking or online shopping, then definitely check out Surfshark. And thank you once again for sponsoring today's video. Right, back to EVs and hybrids. Instead of EVs, what we should be buying are hybrids, especially ones from Toyota and Lexus because they're the best. They've been working on them for a quarter of a century now and I do think they've perfected it. I'm all for trying to reduce emissions and trying to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, which, by the way, there's plenty left for many more generations to come. The idea that there's not much left is a complete fallacy. But it's obviously a good thing to use less of them and be more careful and considerate. I'm all for that. You know, look at modern cars nowadays, they're way more efficient than they were 20 years ago. My 06 Range Rover does about 15 miles per gallon on average. My newer one does about 22. My 02 AMG Mercedes does about 15 miles per gallon on average. My newer one does about 25. That is progress. I just think that hybrids are definitely the way to go. They represent the best of both worlds. Take this for example. It's nice to drive, it's quiet, refined, it's very reliable, very economical. It'll do about 40 miles per gallon however you drive it, wherever you go. If you drive it like you've got a newborn baby on board, then it'll do about 50 miles per gallon. It's really impressive. They're eco-friendly, they don't emit much from the exhaust, and they're low emission zone compliant. The best thing about it though is that you still have your freedom. You can get in this on a Friday night and go to Paris for the weekend. Although I wouldn't really recommend that, I don't really rate Paris. You know, you can put some fuel in this and then drive it down to southern Spain for the summer. You're not tethered to your home charger with a 120-mile range. I think the hybrid should be the future, not the EV. The EV doesn't make any sense. This is what we should be encouraged to buy, and I say encouraged rather than forced or hoodwinked. Encouraged. I honestly don't know what's going to happen because the clock's ticking and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. You occasionally hear about, or I'll occasionally read an article about synthetic fuels or hydrogen power. And that sounds exciting, that sounds like a genuine solution to a problem, but they just don't seem to be getting much traction. Instead, all we keep seeing are more EVs hitting the road. I just can't get my head around it. There's an influx of Chinese cars hitting the road as well with daft names like the Sexy Cat or the Lynx. Why would you want to drive a car called the Sexy Cat or the Funky Cat, whatever it's called? Smelly Cat. I haven't driven any of those, but I'm fairly certain that the quality of those will be so poor it'd make a Citroen look like a handcrafted Bentley. It just strikes me as a massive waste of resources. You know, governments are talking about bringing back scrappage schemes. So what, you scrap your perfectly good, perfectly usable car, something like my Panda that'll do 70 miles per gallon, and replace it with a honky or a dong bang that's been shipped over on a dirty cargo ship. Why? There's one. Lynx & Co. I just don't understand how that's any better for the environment. I also guarantee that they'll only have a lifespan of 10, 12 years tops. Here in Spain, where cars don't rust, you often see cars that are 25, 30 years old and they're still running, and that is better for the environment than a brand new EV. Also, the batteries from EVs can't really be recycled. So where do they go? Landfill? The bottom of the ocean? Where? Anyway, that's put me in a bit of a bad mood now, so I might go and have a siesta, see if I can wake up in a happier mood. I guess the moral of the story, though, is buy a hybrid rather than an EV, because it's just like what we've got. Your life won't be negatively affected by it because nothing's really changed. So thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. What do you think about EVs and hybrids? Let me know below. Cheers, guys. See you next time.